Hello, and you are listening to The Book Was Better, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Courtney.
And this week we're talking about 30 Days of Night.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
Holy crap, we are back with Courtney Coulson in the, I say, studio.
Yeah.
It's actually looking really amazing because tell them what you're dressed as today.
Today we did a second Doctor shoot, Patrick Troughton. So we've made up the studio to look like the inside of the TARDIS.
$24 TARDIS,
Yes.
which basically involved covering a wall with aluminium foil, not aluminum, America. Look at how it's fucking spelled.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of pie tins. No, America, we didn't eat all the pies. We just bought empty pie tins and we stuck them on the fucking wall like a boss.
Ingenuity at its finest.
So you'll see those photos soon. But look, that's an absolute treat to have you back so soon. You're a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, I've got a cough, so hopefully I can get through this and not lose my voice.
I'll hopefully edit them all out, but if you hear a crazy cough, that is why. But this is a book that's close to your heart.
Yeah, I've always loved the concept of 30 Days of Night. The movie is cool, but I was always curious to know what the novelization was like.
Yeah, but this was based on a comic, so this is many degrees of separation. This is the book based on the movie, based on the comic book series.
Yes.
And it's written by Mr. Tim Lebon. And he's the author of original work, such as Flesh. I want you to guess what these things are about. So Flesh, what do you reckon that one's about?
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, great gross copyright infringement on his behalf, but
Yes.
sure, could be. I always thought maybe it was a bit more of a sexy Flesh.
Maybe.
Naming of parts. What do you reckon that one's about?
I am Jack's liver. I
Yeah.
am Jack's kidney.
When people name their boobs.
Yes.
You ever done anything like that?
No.
Mine don't have names either.
Your boobs.
My boobs. My moobs. Until She Sleeps.
It's about a stalker.
Okay, yeah, alright. And he's written some media tie-in stuff like Pieces of Hate, Assassin Series Book 2,
That's a good name.
and Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi, Into the Void.
Into darkness.
So look, there's a lot of vampire to cover here. We've got 30 whole days of night. 30 days to cover. That's, my maths isn't good enough. 24 times 30, 720 hours.
Maybe. I'm terrible with numbers.
60, 72 plus the 0. 720 hours. Yeah. So maybe we should get straight into it. And because your voice is a little bit strained at the moment, I am going to read these excerpts. I'll do my best.
Yes.
And you just give us some colour commentary, Courtney.
Because I'm a vampirologist, I've realised I can actually call myself a vampirologist.
That's right, we saw a vampire movie last night.
Oh, yes. What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, which was brilliant. So, you provide all the info. I'll try and keep this train chugging along on the tracks. 2 days out of the haze of snow, as if from nowhere, came the stranger. His eyes were red-rimmed, yet they sparkled with determination and excitement. His stubbled chin and cheeks were spotted with ice. He looked weary, wretched, and in pain, yet his expression suggested that he could walk on forever. Pausing and glancing over his shoulder, he could just make out the shadow of the ship. Closer, his rowboat had already been caught by the currents and dragged away from shore. He smiled. He would not be needing it again. The stranger marched across the plains of snow and ice, tightening the fur coat across his chest, zipping it up beneath his chin so that the hood gathered around his face. But there was little that could protect him from a storm such as this. Snow melted on his exposed face and froze again as ice, coating his eyelashes and stubble and pinching his skin. He felt hot from exertion, but his breath froze in the air before him. Once or twice he stumbled and fell, coating his clothing with wet snow, an unintentional camouflage, but there was no need to hide. This was the first bad storm of the season, and no one in their right mind would be outside.
It's really great prose.
I'm impressed with Tim Lebon. I didn't expect that much from this. And I've only seen the film recently. I watched it with you, and we watched it pretty late at night, and I must have fallen asleep for a bit of it, because when we were getting towards the end of this book, I was like, I kind of remember that. But as you said, it's a really strong premise. And I'm actually going to show my hand a little early and say that I don't mind how this is put together at all. And this a stranger here seems pretty chuffed when he sees a small town all lit up in the middle of the snow. I guess this is kind of like the vampire equivalent of finding a cheeseburger in the desert.
I like the implication of, where he came from and all that. He's quite mysterious.
Do they show that in the film? Him, like, in the boat and stuff?
Not in the boat, but he's walking along and you do see the ship in the background, and that's cool. And
then we cut to tonight, which is mind-blowing to me. This book, this novelization, is actually happening live.
Yes.
It says tonight. This is all happening.
Will always happen tonight.
And we meet Sheriff Eben Olsen, played by none other than...
Josh Hartnett, whom I have come to like a little bit more since Penny Dreadful. Before that, I just thought, ugh.
You want to smash his face in.
Who is this guy?
Who are you, Josh Hartnett? What have you ever done? He was a tall man, wiry and strong, with a grim face that would have looked better wearing a smile.
Did his mum write this?
Would have looked better if someone had licked a tissue and wiped some of that dirt off it. And we also meet Deputy Billy Kitka, played by Manu Bennett. You remember Manu Bennett?
He came here recently.
He is Asgog in The Hobbit, the white orc with the missing hand.
Yes.
Yeah. And he has found a mysterious mound of burnt cell phones. Somebody's burning all the iPhones into a big pile.
No, it's pre-iPhones. This is satellite phones.
They were big bricks. They mistook them for barbecue bricks, set them alight.
I gotta say, visually, I know we want to talk about the book, but in the film, the visuals are really great. I don't know if it's just because, in contrast, we were watching some piece of shit movie before that.
Oh, it was like Hellraiser 7 or something?
Something.
Hell World?
Yeah.
Where they deal with the Hellraiser hell is on the internet?
Yes.
You download hell?
But yeah, like that scene where they're burning the cell phones, it looks really cool. I don't know what it was about that.
I wouldn't mind finding a mysterious mound in the snow. And Lebanon does have a really nice poetic voice here. There was still light snow in the air from the storm, drifting with the wind and giving the sun a blank canvas on which to paint its demise. He walked along the ridge to watch. The sun had touched the horizon and looked as though it was burning its way into the frozen Alaskan landscape, ready to hibernate for a month. It would leave them dark, cold, and abandoned. Alone. And as we've been alluding, this is a really excellent premise for a vampire story.
I can't believe it's never been done before. And the guy who created 30 Days of Night, the comic, tried to pitch it as a film first, and then a comic, then the film, and then finally got it made as a comic.
Because if you've got a creature that can only come out half the time, like, what a wonderful idea to have them go to a place where it's going to be night for an entire month, and just, like, especially somewhere so isolated. Because I think that's the problem with a lot of horror when it's in a house or something like that. You just go, get the fuck out of the house. But when you're out in the middle of the ice...
there is nowhere to run to.
And I think, you're talking about those visuals. There's something about that expanse that I find really beautiful. I think I'm drawn to seeing a lot of similar things cluttered together, or just that big blank expanse. I think both are really sort of powerful.
Yeah, that negative space.
It's when it's in the middle that it's kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, I love westerns for the same reason, especially Sergio Leone, I should say. He used negative space so well. It's just this expansive deserts, and we don't see much of the same with snow environments, but when they do it well, it looks fantastic.
Now, I'm a little bit excited here as we catch back up with our mysterious stranger. He finished rooting around in the trash can for food scraps. The sled dog still barked, and he thought much of it was from fear. They had growled to begin with, baring their yellow teeth at him, hackles rising, hunkering down as if to leap. But he had merely growled back, and their fear had set them off. The stranger chewed on the remains of the hamburger he'd found, nuked. Damn, don't these people like a bit of blood with their food? It has been like 3 or 4 episodes, Courtney. Not a burger in sight. You talk about like big, expansive, barren wastelands. That's what our menu has looked like.
Yeah, and it's raw hamburger.
No, yeah, not only is it a hamburger, this guy is eating it out of the trash. That's pretty patriotic.
I think so. It's dedication.
And then we go back to Sheriff Eben,
Yes.
who is writing up Mountain Man Bo for some mild infraction. A lot of characters introduced here. I haven't kept track of all their names.
They're not important.
They're all going to get eaten by
I
vampires.
thought his name was Evan. Is it just me? I thought for the longest time it was Evan.
I'm pretty sure it is Eben. Now you've got me all paranoid about it, though.
Yeah, it's not Evan with a V.
I'm going to do some research. That's how dedicated I am to getting this right. We're going to go on to the old IMDb. Eben. It is definitely Eben. E-B-E-N. Eben. It sounds like baby talk, doesn't it? Eben. Like, my name is Eben. I've got a vagina.
Okay. We'll delete that. Yeah, so Eben in the original comic was actually a lot older, and I think he was part Inuit, something like that.
Inuit? I'm into it.
And they just changed it to generic, attractive American guy.
And as he's writing this guy Bo up for a ticket, Eben felt a sudden tightness in his chest, but he didn't like using his inhaler in front of other people, even Billy. Is this going to be some Deus Ex Asthma?
Yes.
We were talking about this last night, about American butchering of words, which I do say with trepidation, because I realise every podcast where I complain about the pronunciation of something, I just manage to butcher a whole ton of things myself.
Yeah.
And of course, I have my own regional things.
Well, it's fine. I'm English, so that means that everything I say is correct.
Well, asthma is an interesting one. Asthma. It's hard to say, because it's an A, an S, a T, and a H, all next to each other. Asth.
It's almost Scandinavian with its love of the, or rather hatred of the vowels.
So the Americans look at asth and they go, fuck that noise. I'm going to replace it with a Z.
Asthma.
Asthma. It's asthma. There's no Z in it. Nothing approximating a Z sound. A Z. But...
Granted, the Australian accent, we do tend to say Australia.
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 No, we're in Australia, mate.
No, you're pronouncing it way too much. It's Australia.
Australia. I say Australia. That's how it's fucking spelt. I was watching some Australian kids sing Supertramp's Dreamer. And I'm not going to elaborate on why that happened. It was related to my job. And because of the Australian accent, it was Dreamer. You're nothing but a dreamer.
Aren't accents supposed to disappear when you're singing?
Dreamer. Difficult. As night fell, Barrow became a town of goodbyes. Some people could handle the long period of darkness without going mad. Indeed, some welcomed it. Others found it oppressive and disturbing and resorted to the bottle or fist to appease their stress. I've never heard about fisting yourself to relieve stress.
Oh, yeah, it's a well-known fact.
I guess so. And if you can't reach, there's always the bottle. And this is what novelizations really do best, though. Here is Tom and Diane, two characters they wouldn't get too attached to. See you in the light, baby. He pulled back from whispering in her ear and kissed Diane again, closing his eyes and darting his tongue into her mouth. He knew she liked that. He knew that beneath her heavy clothing, her nipples would be growing hard, her legs quivering. He reached down and squeezed her butt, and she slapped his hand away. Tom, my parents. Yeah, he said. He could see them over her shoulder.
I was reading that and going, whoa, this story escalated quickly.
That's become the new thing. Like, forget about burgers. It's become about how hot is she.
Yeah.
What are the tits like? And I think to introduce this character and within a couple of sentences be talking about what her nipples are doing under her clothing, something that the film, to be fair, doesn't waste a lot of time pondering what these characters' nipples are up to behind the scenes.
You see these two very briefly.
He had his hands tucked into her briefs. Ow! Resounding silence. Very quiet today.
I'm waiting to talk about the vampires.
Okay,
I've got so much to say about vampires.
Enter Stella, played by Australian Melissa George.
I think she's actually from Perth.
Angel from Home and Away. She's Eben's ex, and she's here for a fire safety inspection and really does not want to be stuck here for the entire month because they are on the eve of the 30 Days a Night.
Convenient timing.
I doubt that's going to happen, though, right? I'm sure she'll be on a merry way before you know it.
But how hot is she?
I love Melissa George. Yeah, I think she's adorable.
No, I mean, is she described as being attractive in the...
Oh, in the book? Are you suggesting that this author might dwell on her looks instead of her personality when she's introduced?
Mayhaps.
I'm going to put this to the test, Courtney, because that's pretty controversial of you. Let's inspect her and make sure that she's not a fire hazard. Stella was in her late 20s, good-looking, trim and athletic, and she commanded respect from everyone who knew her. Well, with a body like that, I'm not surprised. And God, they really don't fuck around with getting her stranded in the town, do they? She's hit by not just a truck, but it's a truck with a huge chainsaw mounted on the front.
Yeah, and it's driven by a guy named Malachi Ham, which is a name way too awesome for a minor character.
I know, that's like... He deserves a trilogy, like... Or a quadrilogy, like Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Malachi Ham and the Chainsaw Truck Massacre. So she's stuck. And the great thing about the chainsaw is there's no real way to patch this car together in time. It's pretty screwed. But Eben, he doesn't want to deal with her because she's his ex. So it's...
Oh yeah, they go on about how, there's not enough time in the world to go through, what tore us apart, and, you wouldn't understand.
It was a chainsaw truck.
It was.
It split their bed in half, and things were never the same since. Hard to have sexy times after that. But to be fair, Eben's got more important business. Some rapscallion has murdered...
Some jackanapes?
A whole lot of dogs!
No!
I really love the creepy way that this all unfolds at the beginning.
I love the slow escalation, and you start out thinking, is that a coincidence? That's probably just, just ignore that.
Whole bunch of mobile phones. They were probably just... got hot in someone's pocket, so they buried them in the snow. But no, turns out more sinister things are unfolding.
But I feel like that is the way this would happen in reality.
Yeah, well, that's a thing when you're around some sort of disaster or thing like that. I think we think about what the people felt at the time, but I don't know if you'd realise it even was happening to you for a little while. There's just something that doesn't feel quite right, and then the next thing, and before you realise, actually, this is actually serious. This might be a problem. Yeah, sometimes it's too late.
Yeah, that happens a lot in reality, when any disaster or whatever happens, and people just go, I didn't think anything of it at the time.
And then, bam, you're dead.
But I like how, so this came out in 2007, I think. So at the time, vampires were Blade. I think Blade was pretty much the biggest vampire thing at the time, but still you had a lot of fantasy and just, not so much horror, not so much realism, and this is what that tried to get back to.
So this is what's happened to these dogs. This is pretty creepy. Brace yourself, listener. If you're a dog lover, hold on to your dog. Cover his ears, maybe.
Because, dogs are supposed to survive the horror stories, man.
Someone had gone at them with a knife, that was clear, and their still steaming blood and insides were now splashed across the Reeses Backyard.
Reeses?
Reeses Backyard.
Whatever.
This is how Reese's Pieces were invented.
Ah.
Eben tried not to breathe in the steam because he knew where it came from. Dog guts, that's where it came from.
Delicious dog gut steam.
So that's pretty intense. And Grandma Helen... At the station, Eben's grandma happens to work at the police station. She then lets an already exhausted Eben know that now there's vandalism at the sewage plant. All the places to vandalise. Phew, Eben muttered. He zipped his hood up around his face and started for the plant. Weird shit going on here, he thought, smiling at his unintentional pun. Eben. Carter waved a hand at the shelving. Welcome to my museum of shit. So I found all kinds of garbage here over the years. Amazing the sort of stuff people try to flush away, Blue jeans, bikes. Sometimes I can yank 'em out before the muffin monster chews 'em to shit. The muffin monster? Wilson asked. Something falls in, it gets shredded. He pointed at the open trapdoor in the corner.
Chekhov's muffin monster.
Yeah, I bet that doesn't have a payoff later. How do you flush a bike down the toilet?
Bikes, dead hookers,
Do you reckon it was one of those like little unicycles that a monkey or something rides?
Yeah,
Would
maybe.
have to be. And jeans, like you're just too lazy to wash them, so you flush them down the toilet.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have a diet like that, I think. There must be some times where you just go, uh-oh, accident. You know what? I'm just going to flush these down the toilet
And it never happened.
and
The
walk
shame.
back out into the McDonald's and just act like nothing's happened.
You'd have no pants on.
It's summer. No one will question. They'll just think I've been down the beach. And Wilson's helicopter has also been really fucked up. What is going on in this small town of Barrow, Courtney?
I don't know. Is it werewolves?
Could be. Could be. And look, I've already praised Lebanon. I do like the writing, but I really cannot stomach the backstory of caretaker Gus Lambert in the
Who
radio
gives a
tower. Like, it's not a bad book at all so far, but I'm really keen to get to the vampires here. And we know by now, if you get the backstory of a security guard, a caretaker, anything like that, they're going to be dead within 2 pages. 5 pages if it's a particularly padded book. And sure enough, he hurried on, reached the safety of the door, sighed in relief, and the shadows came at him from around the side of the tower, growling and drooling and reaching for him with inhuman hands. It's nice here. It takes a while before they really say what these creatures are. It's all very much teased.
I love how they attack as well. It's so animalistic and quick, and they're just scratching and clawing and
Yeah. These aren't like your vampires that have a big gold medallion and a frilly shirt and a big collar.
Yeah, this is so far away from the romantic and fantasy interpretations. They don't even speak English for the most part.
They just hunger. So back to this mysterious and apparently smelly stranger now, who is in the diner causing a ruckus. So what does he want here? I'm going to let you do his line, because I know this is your favourite.
Yes.
He looked to be half her age, but his eyes held twice her experience.
Forget the liquor, Lucy. Bring me a bowl of raw hamburger.
Raw hamburgers are back.
I love the way he talks.
You're hanging for a hamburger so much, you don't even need it cooked.
Nope.
Whack it in me. Eben and Stella both show up to point their guns at the stranger. That's a pretty standard welcome in a small rural town.
I believe so, yes.
And take him back to the station where they lock him in a cell. But, Courtney,
What, Luke?
things are getting creepier.
No.
The stranger looked up and raised a skeptical eyebrow. That's the worst kind of eyebrow. The smirk was still there too, and Eben had a brief, violent image of wiping it from the man's face with his fist. And at the same time, there was something intensely threatening about the stranger, a potential of violence that was almost palpable. The room remained silent, but for the humming of the computer and the soft breathing of all those present. The prisoner lowered his head again and looked at the floor, and his shoulders began to shake as he laughed. Who's the actor here?
He played Angel in X-Men 3.
Which was a recent Book Was Better episode, in which he looks
Yeah.
really, he's blonde and...
Angelic.
yeah, and attractive, and he's just gross in this thing.
He's so creepy.
What's his name? Ben somebody.
Yeah. I
Ben
think
Foster.
so. Yes, there we go.
Fucking nailed it. We didn't even need IMDb.
You are a human IMDb.
I'm a human IMDb, mate. It's all up here. The B's for my brain. The I's for in. The M's for my. In my...
Oh, what is...
directory like brain. The phone lines are dead. The power is cutting out. Check on Gus, the stranger said. He stood but did not approach the cell bars. Board the windows, try to hide. They're coming, and this time they're going to take me with them, honour me for all I've done. Shut up, Jake whispered.
I should have done the voice.
Jake is the little brother of Eben,
Yes.
who hangs out with Grandma Helen at the police station.
Who is, he's openly emotional and stuff, which I think is great,
Oh, yeah. He's a role model.
Yeah.
He's about 15, isn't he?
Yeah, it's okay to be emotional if you're a boy.
I think so. It's okay to cry.
Yeah. Strong men do cry.
They, Eben asked? Well, you might ask. They've been here long before us, lawman. God made 'em to thin the herds. He moved to the bars, clasped his hands beneath his chin, and pressed his face forward.
I should be doing this voice.
Quiet, twisted pride. Go on. You're drinking.
Now they're here.
Now they're here. Well, you might ask, they've been here long before us, lawman. God made them to thin the herd.
I'm pretty sure he didn't do that.
Did he even do that?
No. We are so focused this episode.
He ate so much raw hamburger, he started to moo. And udder sprouted out of his jeans.
No.
He got milk all over his jeans, and he flushed them down the prison toilet. Toilet, as I like to say. Eben goes to find Gus, remember Gus the caretaker, at the radio tower, and this is what he discovers. And he found Gus, tangled with a mess of wires and torn metal. His clothing was ripped, spewing the pink of raw, ripped flesh. His head was missing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Brutal.
It's pretty good horror there. Visceral is the word I would use.
I would too.
You would?
Because I'm not creative.
Let's share it.
Yeah.
So Eben, he heads back to the town to warn everyone, but the vampires attack.
Vampires attack.
They fuck up John and Allie. They were the owners of the dogs. John raised the shotgun and aimed, but then Allie was lifted from the chair and held for an instant across the window before being dragged into the dark. On her way out, her scream changed from shock to pain as smashed glass ripped into her clothing and skin.
I love how the vampire just throws himself through the window for a second, and just sort of looking around going, what the hell just happened? And then grabs her and drags her out. It's brilliant.
Nobody invited him in, did they?
No, none of those shitty vampire rules. I gotta say, they also cast really interesting looking people to play the vampires. They all have really different looks and are equally vampiric in their own
Sort of
right.
character actors with big ears or noses or kind of grimacy faces, that sort of thing.
Really sharp, shark-like faces.
Meanwhile, Denise, Aaron and Gabe are plotting a drunken three-way when something growled in the shadows, and then there came a crunching, wet chewing, a brief cry, and Gabe appeared again, spraying blood and twitching as he flew through the air. Gabe's body landed at their feet, still shuddering, throat ripped out, face lacerated and bleeding, coat tattered, flesh torn, blood pulsing from his terrible wounds to form a steaming pool in the snow.
Lots of steaming blood in this.
There is. I find that a lot with these books which have gory descriptions. You've done the spraying, the spurting, the gushing, and then you have, this guy's caught up with the steaming. After a few descriptions, a few attacks, it's hard not to repeat yourself.
Yeah, how do you describe essentially the same thing over and over?
And he seems to be really fascinated with torn clothing as well.
Yes.
Who's going to patch that up, I wonder? No vampire sewing circle going to fix this mess. Aaron was standing like an ice sculpture, unable to take his eyes from the thing emerging from the snow. It had a terrible ashen face, blood on its chin, and a grin displaying large teeth. And on those teeth, fresh meat. So that's the first description we really get of what one of these guys looks like.
Yeah.
And that's quite good. I like the whole meat thing, the cattle thing, all those sorts of references keep coming up.
Yeah.
Very dehumanizing. So the stranger tries to escape until Eben shoots him in the arm and locks him up super tight this time. And then Eben, Billy, and Stella, Melissa George, go out to sort out these unseen attackers. They still don't know what's going on. And basically, the whole town has just gone to shit. There are cars on fire, shops are broken into. The minister at the church, he doesn't have a head anymore. He's decapitated.
I don't think we ever saw that in the movie, but it's a nice touch.
Where's your god now? And a vampire even attacks their car.
No god.
Yeah, jumps on the roof. I actually feel like, I don't know what you think, that they kind of did too much too quickly with the attack.
That was the most disappointing part for me, is that they took their time to build up the suspense, and then there was this all-out fight, and that doesn't make sense. They should just keep going at that pace. It's working just fine for them.
Do you think it was a logistic thing, like they didn't want to have to deal with a couple of hundred people, which is all the population is at this point, after most people have gone away for the month?
Maybe.
And they just wanted to deal with a couple of dozen? Because they just do cull a lot of people really, really quickly.
The other explanation that some people have given is, well, they do like their prey to be scared, if they got adrenaline pumping and all that. So if they are very aware of what's going on and they know they're trapped, then I guess they're more scared.
The issue for me is, like, now you've revealed the thing in a really big way. It doesn't really have anywhere to go after that for a while. Now it's just a lot of hiding.
Yeah, it goes up and then it goes back down again.
So they return to the station, this is Eben and Co., after hearing Grandma Helen scream on the walkie-talkie. And when they return, everything is smashed up. There's blood. The little brother, Jake, he's missing. And the stranger, he's really pissed that the vampires didn't take him as promised. Now, here's an opportunity for you to do some stranger voice.
Finish me, the prisoner said, shaking hair from his face and looking up. He'd been beaten, one eye swollen shut, lips split, teeth missing. Kill me, please.
Kill me, please. Tell me who they are, Eben said. The stranger only lowered his head and started jabbering again, blood and tears foaming across his lips. I like that visual.
Yeah, he's like a rabid dog.
And the vampires, they all regroup. I think this is that scene where they're all at the intersection.
Yeah. I was just going to say, though, about the stranger, is that he's basically the Renfield of the story.
Yes, or the Jackie of What We Do in the Shadows once people get to that film.
Yeah. And we were discussing who's creepier, the original Renfield from the Lugosi film or this guy, and I'm not quite sure.
I think the Renfield in that original Lugosi film is creepier than Lugosi.
That's true. He steals the show.
Like when he's grinning on that ship after he's murdered everyone. We're talking about the like black and white Universal Dracula, which if you like vampires, go and check that shit out.
It's way underrated. You know, most people go, oh, you know, that's a really cheesy version of Dracula, but it's not. It holds up really well.
There's some cool moments. And, that's your vampire history. That's your assignment. I want your vampire history assignment.
Yeah, if you want to be a vampirologist like me.
That's right. You got to do the work. You got to do the hard yards.
Apparently, you can just call yourself that, and no one's going to stop you. It's amazing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I did love this sentence. They were the hungry ones, doomed forever to walk the night, unloving every minute. All of them had pale faces painted red with their victims' blood.
I love that visual as well. You know, they're all just so pale, the black eyes, and then it's basically like war paint, the blood.
Yeah, they're like the whole bottom half of their face is red. And it's great as well because everything's pretty colourless in this Alaskan landscape. It's dark.
The palette of
black night, white snow, red blood. Some had ragged teeth protruding from receding gums. You can see a dentist about that. A few had true fangs. All of them had black eyes. That's the worst kind of black, isn't it? When you double it up.
Black.
Adapted to the darkness with no use for seeing in sunlight. They hissed, spat. It was their language, ancient and unrecognizable to anyone else alive or dead.
I have to wonder, though. I mean, there's a lot of things about the vampires that if you think about it too much, it doesn't make too much sense. But it's like, so if you get bitten, do you automatically know how to speak that language, or...?
There's probably, like, vampire as a second language classes held in the barn. Where Marlo teaches you all the basic words like cattle, meat, blood, hunger, feed.
And Marlo is played by Danny Houston, and he's brilliant. He just has so much presence. And he doesn't even have to say anything. He just shows up and you think, damn, he's a badass.
That's the rare quality in an actor. I think that's why a lot of those big people who have become really big stars, it's just about that presence. It's just about, like, you can just watch them and be engaged even when they're not doing much. This is what the book has to say about Marlo. Their leader, known only as Marlo, walked in their midst, a tall figure with feral looks, hooded eyes, and the easy gait of someone used to being in control. Others bowed down to him, some crawled at his feet, and he spared none of them a glance. And, to be fair, they're pretty stoked that they found this place where they can basically eat people for 30 days.
Why didn't they think of it before?
It's like a fat kid being trapped in the pantry and just loving it. So, look, Jake, don't worry about him. Grandma might be dead, but Jake has joined Denise and the other survivors in the diner.
Oh, thank God. I was really hoping he would survive.
Yes, they're going to be able to...
It's really important.
...live off hamburgers and milkshakes for at least 20, 25 of these days. Ellen bursts in. Eben bursts in. Ellen. Ellen, TV show host
Oh,
Ellen.
wow.
She bursts in
Wow.
and she starts to dance, and it takes everybody's mind off
It
everything.
really lightens the mood.
She does a Q&A about Finding Nemo. Eben bursts in and starts delivering orders. And they have this grand plan of hiding in Charlie Kelso's attic. Because apparently it's quite a well-hidden attic.
Mm.
It's actually up in the ceiling where you'd expect it to be, but the entrance is well hidden. And on the way there, this is when they start to realise for the first time that these creatures aren't exactly human.
They're not on PCP.
Yeah, they do that. Maybe they're on drugs. Maybe they're all like meth heads. Stella's door was ripped open. Eben glanced back over his shoulder, wincing as she fired at the thing that stood there before her. The sound was shocking, but what he saw was worse. The bullet gouged a finger-sized wound out of the creature's skull. It didn't even cringe. Its tongue lolled, sharp teeth glinting as it opened its mouth wide, swiping the gun from Stella's grasp. Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Day 1. Okay, now we get into the Vampire Diaries. These were the original Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
Day 1. This is the day they're holed up at Kelso's house, gathering their weapons and equipment, while vampire boss Marlo goes and visits the stranger. The two with him crept forward, and Marlo spat at them in their own ancient language. They held back, taking station in the shadows at the corners of the room. That's confusing when they're in a station, to say they're taking station.
Mm.
He hated speaking in the cattle's voice. But sometimes, it was necessary.
What if he's been a vampire so long he really can't tell the difference between a human and a cow?
Yes.
They're all the same, all animals.
Do vampires feed on cows? Does this have to be humans?
Some vampires can feed on other animals, but that's considered the vegetarian option.
And is it because they don't taste as good?
Depends on the law. Sometimes it's something in the human blood that they need. It could be the soul, or it's just that they were once human, so they need to replace whatever's lacking in their body with that of a living human.
Or is it a status thing? Because it's pretty badass to be in a dark alley, on some woman's neck, as opposed to standing in a field with your cave
Much more
pod
dignity.
chugging on a cow.
Yeah, certainly in this version it seems like it's almost a sign of status to be covered in all the blood of your victims being human.
And Marlo says, "Wake." The language was unfamiliar in his mouth, and it sounded deep and thick. Marlo twisted the man's head until it faced the rear of his cell. Bones crunched, skin split, blood flowed, and Marlo backed away from the smell.
Doesn't even drink his blood.
Poor stranger!
I know! All he wanted to do was join them.
He burnt all those cell phones. Where did it get him? Slows down a lot here. The shut-ins have the obligatory talk about whether or not the vampires are really vampires, or if vampires exist, or if they're a cult, or on PCP, or whatever. Day 3 is rationing, infighting, wigging out as the vampires go around and trash the surrounding houses looking for survivors. Day 6, they're waiting for a snowstorm because they want to use the cover of it to move to the Utilidor, which is the shit factory, right?
Yes.
Where the Muffin Man is.
Muffin Monster.
Muffin Monster. Have you seen the Muffin Man?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
No, yeah.
The one that lives on Drury Lane?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Not very well, though.
No. Keeps to himself.
Oh, he's on Facebook.
Ah.
So look, they're all just biding their time. Awake, Jake had trouble believing that's what they were, but in his dreams they were so real and there was never any doubt. Fearsome, manic, monstrous things with teeth that ripped skin and flesh and scored bone. They looked like humans with shark mouths, though there was nothing human about their behaviour. He saw Grandma ripped apart almost every night, and somehow he never screamed himself awake. In those last moments when sleep and nightmare bled away, Jake swore blind that he would have his revenge.
I do love the shark mouth design. I always love the two fangs. That's the classic. But yeah, for this kind of savage vampire that just tears the prey apart. It's very cool.
I was surprised by the film because I hadn't seen it before. I knew the shark mouth description. I thought we were going to get some CGI, really big mouths suddenly opening up.
Like Blade 2.
Yeah, but nope. Still cool. It's still cool though. It's more grounded.
Yeah.
This is cool though. The vampires, you remember this? They use a survivor to...
It's so clever.
Well, you tell the story.
Yeah, okay. So, they've taken one of the survivors and they're making her wander around in the town. She's, shouting out, "Hello, is anyone there? Please help me." And, yeah, all this, our main group, Evan and all that, they are tempted to go out and rescue her, and then they notice on the rooftops there are the vampires waiting for someone to come out and fall into their trap.
Yes. "Please, I tried," she pleaded. "There's nobody." She'd seen them attack friends, neighbours, tearing out throats and drinking blood. She knew what they were. In a way, that helped her carry on, because now it felt as though she was living in a dream, a nightmare. Very little was real anymore. Kirsten was aware that she was losing her mind, but she welcomed the increasing buffer that gave her against sickening reality.
I think it's great because so many times you have these monsters who are said to be, they're the ultimate predator and they're really intelligent and all that, and then you never see that in execution. Whereas, they're capable of working together and plotting and planning.
It's quite brutal here too, how they tear her to pieces.
Yeah.
Like, they just keep charging at her and slashing at her, and she's getting attacked from all these different angles until
and Marlo just stands there and watches. But before that, though, he, gets up in her face and she says, "Oh, God, please." And he's like, "God? No God."
Yeah, that's badass. And then Eben runs away and he meets John, who owned the dogs, but John is now a shit-sucking vampire.
A shit-sucking vampire.
Eben grabbed the axe and gave it one heavy twist. It slipped from the wood and he went with the motion, spinning around and letting the heavy metal head carve into John. It struck his shoulder and he gasped. Black blood pulsed from the wound. Eben kicked him off and stood, free now of the swing's chains, axe held by his side. "Eben," John growled, and Eben raised the axe and stepped in again. This time the blade buried itself in John's right cheek, shattering his eye socket and flipping his head back. Eben pulled the axe free, groaned, and swung it again and again. John crawled and mewed until Eben cut off his head. I think he uses good words, like...
Effective.
Mewed. Like, you don't have to be really wordy and over-elaborate, but when you choose the right word for the right situation, the word that really evokes an image, I think that's successful. And I like that bit of writing. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, there's so many great little bits here and there. I also love the idea of vampires having black blood. That's always cool. I could give you a little bit of vampire science.
Okay, yeah, hit us.
Okay, so realistically, if a human being were to be a sanguivore, someone who eats blood, you would pretty much have to consume it constantly. There's no fat in blood, so there's no storing that energy, so you just have to keep going and going and going. So it makes sense that these particular vampires just don't stop killing.
They're always hungry.
Yeah, you'd have to drink just liters of it.
Day 12?
Oh, and even grosser. The vampire bat, it urinates while it's drinking. So it's when it's taking in the liquid, and then the old liquid goes out. This is how the digestive system works.
Circle of life.
Yeah, good thing that these vampires don't do that.
Day 12 is a bingo, they play Pilates, and there's an open mic night.
Which was probably not the best idea, considering they need to be quiet.
Yeah, in Kelso's attic. But some of that talent show was pretty hilarious, wasn't it? I love when they do the thing where one guy's behind the other guy and he loops his arms through the other guy's arms and pretends that they're his arms. That's my favourite bit. Day 13... a polar bear arrives.
That was cool, and it's not in the movie.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I thought I fell asleep during that. I was like, how did I miss the polar bear?
No.
As the bear noticed the shape moving on the roof above it, the other two streaked in from either side, striking at its yellow coat and turning it red in long livid streaks. The bear roared again in pain this time and spun on its attackers. So there's a suggestion that just like that trick they used with the woman, that they're using the bear to sniff out the survivors. And then they must get bored with that or dissatisfied or just overly hungry, and they kill this thing and take it down in front of everybody.
Just to prove that they could.
That would have been badass in the film.
I know.
Day 14, people going crazy. An old man escapes and his son follows him. Doug has a bit of a giggle fit. Day 15, Marlo kills some people.
Some more people.
There was an old record player in the corner, a disc on its turntable, and Marlo delicately touched one of his claws to the grooves. The music he heard was a composition of agony and blood. I mean, at least it wasn't Prince's Bat Dance.
Yeah.
Could have been a lot worse. That's a great visual.
That was such a great scene. They're all shrieking and...
Agony and blood.
Yeah. Effective words.
So, the gang decide to crawl through the sewer pipes to the utilidor. They leave the attic and they go to the store for supplies. This is very important. They pretty much just get Oreos.
Very important.
And there's a little girl in the store. And see if you can guess where this is going. The girl turned and the light glinted from the blood spread across her mouth, chin and cheeks. Her eyes were black. Tommy Melanson was doing the real sobbing and he whimpered again as the little girl spoke.
I'm done playing with this one,
she said matter-of-factly. She plunged the fingers of her left hand into the terrible wounds at his throat, placed her left foot against his chin and pushed. His head ripped off with a terrible sound, tearing, the whoosh of air, a single groan. The girl looked at them again.
You want to play with me now?
Hungry, hungry hippos. Patty cake.
Yeah, it's really obnoxious because the girl looks way too old to have the pigtails, the little pink dress.
She's 19. The game is cut short, however, when the axe blade flashed past his face and buried itself deep in the girl's head. The sound was horrible, the sudden silence even worse. Again, that's really clever.
I know.
I didn't expect much from you, Leben. And you fucking delivered. A new plan now is to fry vampires with the sun lamp from the dead Grandma Helen's medicinal marijuana crop.
Yes.
So Eben heads off to fetch it. I did like this. I thought this was incredibly eloquent. Eben felt overcome with a wave of sadness and then anger.
Fuckers.
He whispered. A long, bulky, ultraviolet lamp hung above the trays, and the last person to have touched this was Helen.
You fuckers! You blew it all up!
I like his internal monologue there.
Does that count as swear words in my...
Yeah, you said them.
That's why I paused. I was like, oh no. Oh, fuck balls.
Yeah, that's 3.
Oh, fuck.
Balls as well, and fuck. So that's like a lot. A lot of swears.
I'm doing great.
You're fine. You're hanging in there.
Woo!
We're getting there.
Random thought, but who cuts the vampire's hair? Like, Marlo has really short, stylized.
Because these vampires wouldn't have a human life beyond that, would they?
Yeah, we kind of wonder, when we were watching, we're going, so what do they do the rest of the time?
Must be very difficult for vampires in Australia, for example, when a lot of the shops close really early, a lot of essential services.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have late night hairdressers and stuff. Maybe a Thursday night, like, you could get it done at about 8 p.m.
Yeah. What if it's daylight savings and then the sun's up later?
And then everybody's there at the same time. There's a vampire queue. And they're like, do you want me to leave the Widow's Peak? And you're like, yeah, if you can just maybe accentuate that a little bit.
I actually have a Widow's Peak, but I pluck it because I got teased mercilessly.
Do you look like little Eddie Munster?
Yeah, I look a little bit like a vampire. That and the fact that I'm really pale, so it doesn't help my case.
And you chug on cows in fields.
And some of the students would go missing, and they'd all blame me. I mean, they're all right, but still.
Kids can be cruel.
Yeah. Maybe the hair doesn't grow. Like, once you get bitten, it's that way forever, like in Interview with the Vampire.
Maybe it's part of the whole shape-shifting thing. Like, if you can turn into a bat, surely you can give yourself a Bieber haircut.
My youngest brother had that haircut, and he showed me his library card recently. Just thought, oh, you're gonna regret that. I think he's already regretting it.
Yeah, if you are a young person with hair that you're really proud of, do make sure you get it all photo documented so that your future loved ones can have a good chuckle. Meanwhile, Stella and co make a break for the tunnels. Doug drops some stuff, he swears, and is torn apart by vampires. And Eben is attacked, and lo and behold, Courtney, I don't say that very often. No. Lo and behold, oh my giddy aunt, oh my stars and garters, the sun lamp works.
Yeah, which is weird because they're talking about, oh, well, just because it works on Bela Lugosi doesn't mean it will work on these guys. Because they didn't even know what they are, and I don't know where they even got the idea that they're vampires. They could be zombies, demons, who knows?
She looked at him, eyes filled with hate and hunger and an animalistic fury that made him quiver. Then its eyes misted, and as the eyelids closed, they ruptured and steamed away on its charred face. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And more chaos as our heroes regroup. Bo drives the trencher, which, if you remember, is the truck with the chainsaw.
Hell yeah.
The chainsaw on its extendable arm was whirring, a silvery blur in the moonlight, and Bo revved the motor and skidded the trencher into a sideways slide. The chainsaw caught one of the vampires across the chest and ripped through. Blood, bone, and meat sprayed through the air, and for a second the moon was red.
I love the visuals.
Holy fuck, Eben muttered. This guy has all the answers.
Man of many words.
Just as the vampire behind him launched itself at the back window, it stepped in one of the bear traps he'd set. The jaws clamped around its leg. Bo heard the meaty chunk even in the cab, and the thing tumbled over the side of the vehicle howling. Ha! Fuckface! Bo slammed the trencher into reverse, gears grinding and objecting with a squeal, and then backed up. He felt it rise as one of the treads ran over the flawed vampire, and he pressed on the gas. A shower of tattered clothing and flesh spewed across the snow in front of the vehicle, and the thing trapped beneath finally stopped screaming.
And it doesn't seem super effective. He messes them up, but they just keep coming.
I think I fell asleep during this bit as well, which is a shame because it sounds incredible. Is it good in the film?
It's pretty cool.
But we all know this trope. Like, it's very much the heroic last stand. You know, when a character starts, like, kicking a lot of ass, but they're not the main character, they always get overwhelmed.
Sacrificing for greater good.
And he's killed within a couple of pages. Though he does blow himself up, which is fair enough. And then, look, lots of little bits and pieces. There's actually quite a lot of plot, really, because Eben kills a friend who's turned into a vampire, has to cut off his head, and he's a bit disturbed by that. Day 16, Stella dreams that Eben is a vampire.
Both very cool scenes.
Yeah, she's got some sort of weird prophetic ability. Day 20, they're now holed up in the police station where they eat canned peaches.
Stand back.
Love Day 20. And natural syrup too. Whoa. Absolutely delicious. Day 21, Eben and Stella head out to rescue Billy. And we haven't seen Billy for a while. He's sending Morse code, flashing a light from his house. And when they go over, this is really dark. They find that Billy's wife and children are dead because...
he shot them.
Yeah, because he's a cop. And he shot them dead.
Yeah, that's... probably, yeah, I mean, there's so many great scenes in it, but that was one of my favourites.
That's a little plot point that was borrowed in this year's Australian Perthocalypse film, These Final Hours. And they return to the station, and then everybody's gone. They're holed up in a different house. These guys are in a different house every couple of pages. Day 28. We're getting close, Courtney. We're on the move again.
I can make it.
They save a crying little girl. I actually put this excerpt because doesn't this sound like something sinister is happening? Stella stood from beneath the house, grabbed the girl and pulled her down into the shadows. Eben crawled to them and put his hand over Gail's mouth just as she opened it to scream. She bit hard and he thought, oh fuck, oh shit, we were so fucking stupid. He winced and raised the axe, but Stella knocked his arm inside. So his hand's bleeding, and someone getting bitten by a little girl, I think that he's a vampire now.
Yeah.
But no.
No, just a normal human child.
Just a bitey child. So, Billy gets fucked up by vampires. Stella and the little girl are separated from poor old Eben. Eben goes on his epic trek through the shit pipe. He dodges the muffin monster.
Through a river of shit.
And he's reunited again, a second time, with his brother. And look, this surprised me. The rest of the gang, the ones that had all disappeared, they're all living it up in the sewers like the fucking Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
They've got a TV, they've got a half pipe, they've got a pizza being delivered down through manholes.
Being radical dudes.
I know, once you get used to the smell, it's great down there. Absolute blast. Day 29. What would you call that day? I'd call it the penultimate day.
I love that word, and you don't get to use it too often.
Well, we can use it now on day 29 in our vampire.
The penultimate day of 30 days.
Dear Vampire Diary, Billy returns. He's not dead. He's so dreamy, but he's a vampire now. So Billy's a vampire now.
Yes.
He begs for death.
Yes.
And Eben does the deal, and it says here, Billy's head tumbled into the shredder.
That was a pretty brutal scene.
And to celebrate, they eat chocolates and drink vodka. I'm not even making that up. That's what they do.
That's actually what happens.
They have a great time. Again, sewer living is fine living. And then finally, day 30. So, Stella is alive, but she's pinned under a car with the girl, and the vampires, they don't want to let everybody know that vampires exist. So they start to set the town on fire.
Covering their tracks.
And here's more eloquent Eben. Shit, Eben whispered. Fucking shit. The head vampire and his pack had gathered between the edge of town and the Utilidor, almost as if they knew where any survivors would flee to. They were strung out in a long, uneven line, facing the town, shadows thrown behind them by the rising flames, seeming to dance.
Such a great shot as well. You got the flames, and then you got the vampires sitting in front of it, and you got the white snow. It's great.
And this is a controversial choice. Eben needs to get out there and save Stella, and there's only one way he can think of doing this, because if he just goes out there, the vampires are going to beat the shit out of him. So he injects himself with Billy's infected blood, because only the head went into the shredder.
Yeah.
The rest of the body's up the top. They helped Eben back to the corridor and sat him against the wall. He was sweating and shivering and his limbs were weak. The arm into which he'd injected Billy's blood felt as though it was on fire, spreading through me like it's spreading through Barrow. One fire to save another. He's making a bold sacrifice to save his pals.
So many ways I could go wrong, though.
Yeah, like he could just kill everyone in the sewers.
Yeah, he could just change instantly and...
They're all having a pizza party and or he could just go in and tear out Stella's throat.
Yep.
He reckons he can fight it, but we don't all, like, tough guys that say fucking shit and fuck, like, think they can fight it. But I know he goes on a vampire killing rampage.
I have a problem with the ending.
I thought this is pretty cool in the book, at least. Who were you, Eben said, looking down at the inhuman face below him. Someone's son, someone's lover? The creature only hissed up at him, so Eben crushed his foot down onto its skull. He stamped again and again until he felt the bone rupture. He looked up as fluid splashed against his leg, and somewhere deep in his mind a shadow screamed its last. The lead vampire stared at him amazed. You want someone to bite? Eben asked. He stepped forward, and the vampires gathered before him moved back. He grinned. Bite me.
Yeah.
That's a bit on the nose, a bit on the neck.
I was going to say about the vampire body language as well. It's this real predatory... You know, they still walk like people. They're not like zombies or anything like that, but just the way they kind of tilt their head around.
Like a raptor.
Yeah, they're really...
They stalk people.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And look, as Stella escapes to safety, Eben totally fucks up Marlo. No more, Eben thought, as Marlo's head fell for his throat. Eben gathered every last shred of strength and punched upwards. His fist smashed the vampire's teeth and plunged into its mouth up to the wrist.
How about the shit?
Eben raised his broken hand and pressed it against Marlo's face. Then he grabbed the vampire's jaw and pulled its head apart.
So he's only just been changed, and this Marlo guy, he's been a vampire for who knows how long, and he gets his ass kicked by the noob.
Well, you know, Eben believes in it.
You gotta believe.
He's following his heart, and that's all it takes sometimes to do a miracle. And then this is the ending. This was quite sad. I didn't expect this. No days of 30 night days to past Eben returns or anything, because Stella and Eben, they go and sit on their ridge. Is this where they met or something?
Yeah, it is.
And the sun rises, and, baby, Eben whispered, His skin was stinging, blood turning hot, and already he felt his senses beginning to withdraw. He'd felt that once today already, and he knew what it meant. I'm here with you. Listen to me. Stella faded from his sight, only a shadow now. I'm listening. I could live forever, he said, even his own voice distant now, but I don't want to breathe another second if I can't remember what it feels like to love you.
Feels.
Neither of us ever forgot, she said. Eben asked her to hold him tight. She felt his death approach. He winced, gasped in pain, but never cried out, not even when his skin blistered and his flesh began to smoke. By the time the sun broke from the horizon, Eben had gone to nothing, and Stella had started to remember him.
Oh.
I'll never forget.
Oh, so emotional.
Should have a minute of silence.
Yeah.
That's great on a podcast.
Yes.
Well, I got to ask Courtney, as I do it at this point in every single podcast, was the book better?
I always do this as if I don't expect the question to come up. But
What?
I always feel like,
How dare you?
was the book better? See, the film has great visuals, and I love the actors, especially the vampires. But the book really has suspense, and I love the way its way with words. So
It's very tight this time around. I'm going to agree with you there.
Why do I have to make decisions?
I'm going to side with the book. I haven't done that for a while. And it's a really well-written book, and I think it makes it a rollicking story without too many lulls. So
Yeah, let's say the book.
the book.
Yes.
And, when I went onto the old Amazon reviews, people were quite fond of the book. Here's a couple
And
of
could actually write.
very short reviews. This book scared the crap out of me. I'm talking the lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking I'm hearing something rustling under my bed scared. I haven't been that freaked out by a book since Stephen King's It. That's high praise.
Yes.
I read it in 2 days, and that's what kept me awake, wondering how they were going to get out of this remote Alaskan village without getting violently ripped to shreds. It was well done and extremely descriptive.
Should I do my, Rick Moranis?
Sure.
I hope they do well with the movie, but the book was vivid enough for me. Levin is a madman. Excellent excellent book if you love horror.
Leben is a madman.
Levin is a madman.
Why not? Leben, you glorious madman. Thank you for taking us on 30 terrifying days of night.
I love a book that is actually legitimately good in its own right. It's not, oh, well, I guess we had to write a story based on this movie.
I agree. Doesn't make for a particularly funny episode, but
I'm not a funny person, let's face it.
we call them as we see them, don't we? Like, we're not here to just make fun of stuff. If it's a good book, by crikey, we're gonna let you know about it.
Some serious anal cysts.
Serious anal cysts. I'm gonna do a quick plug
Maybe I am a bit funny.
of these anal cysts of our other shows. Listen to the other podcasts. There's 3 podcasts a week pretty much at the moment. That's
I'm not
crazy.
in them though, so you don't have to, don't feel.
No, you really should. Fruitless Pursuits, pop culture podcast. Jacinta and I talk about the week in pop culture. Courtney's dying in the background. I'm going to go on. Just think of it as background music.
Yeah. No, I'm just awful.
And Scar Joe A Go-Go, my podcast where I watch and dissect every single Scarlett Johansson film in chronological order. And this week, oh my god, it is Ghost World.
Hell yeah.
So make sure you hear that one. Like all our pages on Facebook and join the discussion in our Facebook group, which is called The Book Was Better, FPcast, Scar Joe A Go-Go discussion. One day we'll come up with a better name when we have better name recognition. And holy crap, you belligerent pricks, rate and review us on iTunes.
Maybe we should like the Fruitless Pursuit-universe.
Pursuit-universe.
Yes.
Yeah, need some sort of network name, but we got
I like Pursuit-universe.
such shitty recognition as it is already. I have a feeling people wouldn't be looking for that.
Pursuit-universe.
Pursuit-universe. You can pursue us at the Pursuit-universe. Alright, thanks Courtney. Look, I know you were at death's door and you managed to get all the way through this one, all 30 days, or 30 nights.
Oh, if only I were a vampire, I wouldn't have to worry about these, stupid mortal illnesses.
Give it time.
Ugh.
Maybe you can apprentice yourself to one, and if you do a good job, they'll change you.
Yay!
Yeah, so we shall catch
You all on the flips.
Shimmer.